but the pain was unbearable. I could not walk, I could not sit, I could only sleep in one position.
Hello and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Heal Yourself with myself, Sarah Dawkins. My guest today is Tannaz Hosseinpour, who is a certified life coach specializing in relationships, both with oneself and with others, as well as a conscious manifestation. With an academic background in conflict resolution law and counseling psychotherapy, she combines these diverse skills to empower individuals to create meaningful connections and manifest their desired reality. So welcome, Tannaz.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Sarah.
Thank you for joining us as well. So would you like to share with our listeners what you've healed and how you've healed?
Yes, definitely. It was one of the most profound experiences of my life, and one that I share often with people to show the mind-body connection. And so it occurred around 4 years ago. My grandfather passed away, and I'm originally Iranian. So the whole family and we flew into Iran. And even though he was sick, I don't think my family members were ready to process the grief. So they all kind of went into this freeze mode. And it was really on to me and some of the extended family members to kind of figure out all the arrangements for the funeral. And in our culture, it's very common to have an extended period of time for these arrangements. So we were there for, let's say, around 10 days. And for these 10 days, we were preparing different events and gatherings. So it was really a huge affair. At some point, some of the lunches were like 1,000 people at the funeral arrangement. So it was just a lot that was on my plate. And I was very close to my grandfather. So I really didn't have the time to grieve the pain, grieve the loss, and I was just in go, go, go mode. And as soon as we left Iran, I flew back to Toronto because we had to do another funeral here. And again, it was very go, go, go. The day that the last, event happened, I went to the gas station to pump gas. I dropped my bottle of water. I went to pick it up and I just couldn't get back up. And that was the first time I had ever felt back pain. I never really had back pain before that. It was like this brief moment, maybe in university when I was working out a lot, but it wasn't anything chronic. And so I couldn't get back up. And for those who don't know, the Canadian healthcare system, if you want to get an appointment, it takes months and months. But I think my pain was so intense and the doctors could feel it that I got an MRI within 48 hours, which is unheard of here. I went into an MRI, came out, and they kept injecting me with cortisone to kind of bring down the inflammation, but the pain was unbearable. I could not walk, I could not sit, I could only sleep in one position. And even then, it was painful. Again, it's a pain I'd never experienced before. And so the doctor calls and he says, I have bad news. You're never going to be able to pick up even a pen for the rest of your life. It's so, your lower back is so inflamed, and it was just bad news. And so at that point, I was between Dubai and Toronto, and I had to fly back to Dubai, and that itself was so difficult. I had to figure out a way to upgrade to business, and when I was there, like, everyone could tell I was sweating from pain. So all the flight attendants would come to me like, "What can we do for you?" And I keep rubbing these ointments, but it was very, very painful 15 hours. So I got to Dubai, and a friend of mine who is a yogi, she said, there's another friend of ours that went through a similar pain, but she got into an accident on a boat. And there's this guy that we know, and he can really heal your back. I was like, listen, honey, based on the MRIs, I can't lift a pen. Like, I don't know what anyone can do for me. Like, I just have to figure this out medically with Western medicine. And she said, just try him out. I said, okay, there's no harm in that. I called him and he came over and he asked me to lay on my belly on the floor. And he started to put his finger on certain points on my back. And I was screaming out so loud. I felt that he was drilling something into my body. And my partner at the time, he was at the house. He came downstairs and he's like, what are you doing to her? He's like, I'm doing nothing. I'm just gently putting my finger on certain trigger points, certain stressor points. And he was like, no way. Why would she scream that loudly if you're just gently putting your finger? And so he did it again. And after that session, he put me aside. He said, there is your body is holding on to a very traumatic and painful memory. And when it's her back, it means literally it's the weight of something that is breaking your back in two. What is this emotion? And I couldn't put it together. I was like, I mean, besides this pain, I really can't figure it out. And then he said, let's backtrace our steps. Like, what happened last month and 2 months? And I was like, okay, 2 months ago, my grandfather passed away. And he said, did you have the time to grieve your pain? And that's when it hit me. Because I've been doing this work since I was a child. I grew up in a very spiritual home, but I think I was so deeply enmeshed into it that I couldn't see the bigger picture. I couldn't connect the dots. And he said, okay, I'm going to do my part of it, which is I'm going to put my finger on these stressor points. And as I'm putting it, I want you to release. I want you to scream. I want you to cry. And then he would do some movements, some yoga movements to help me strengthen my back muscle. Because at that point, it was 2 months of no movement. And he said, but it's also on you to kind of feel your feelings and go back to that 2 months ago when you got that news and feel every emotion associated to that from that moment onwards, and how you felt when you had to take the responsibilities of, planning everything, and how you felt when you had to fly to Canada and again, do that again. And whenever time someone would come to you and say, I'm sorry for your loss, how you felt. And, because again, the emotions would come up and you would suppress them because you wanted to be strong for your mom, you wanted to be strong for your grandma, for your uncles. So it was a lot of feeling that I had to do on my own, and bless him, as well as all the work that I did with him. But within, I would say, a couple of months, I think we did, I'm not quite sure, but I think we did maybe 15 to 20 sessions. I could walk again. I could do all the things that I loved doing, start playing football again. And I came back to Canada and I went to my doctor and I said, remember when you said I couldn't lift a pen for the rest of my life? I'm active again. And he was like, oh, that's a miracle. I'm like, that's what when people lose really, when they do something that's outside the ordinary, they always say oh, it's a miracle. And yeah, so that was my experience. And I really learned. For me, it's like I experienced the mind-body connection that I often teach. So it was like the best experiment to kind of prove the science that's out there.
Yeah, and often because of the work we do, we can't see the wood for the trees. So we don't see within us what we see within our clients. And once it's pointed out to us, we kind of go, oh yeah, but it's so challenging to see it for yourself, because and as well, when you're in so much pain, it's so challenging to think logically and rationally and coherently, because the pain just blocks everything out other than the pain itself.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the pain, and I think maybe that's why it's so helpful to work with a professional and anything, whether it's like physical pain or emotional pain or relational pain, because we can't see our rear view mirrors, like the blind spots. So it really does help having someone who has that knowledge as well and goes like, listen, these are the dots that I'm seeing. And then having, ourselves connect them.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned Western medicine. They only look at it from that medical
Yeah.
standpoint, don't they? What trauma created this
Mm-hmm.
acute injury that's become chronic? And
Mm-hmm.
if there was no trauma, they can't associate it with an emotion like us more spiritual people can. And we know that emotions get trapped in the body, but like we say, we struggle to find it within ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah.
So you've talked about working with this gentleman,
Mm-hmm.
and he used pressure point
Mm-hmm.
through touch. And what kind of yoga movements did he do or recommend for you?
We did very simple. At that point, it was just like, our Spider-Man poses, just Superman poses, sorry, just kind of like stretching the body. Um, you might be surprised, but some of our poses was just simply sitting on the floor and just having a straight spine because I couldn't do that for 2 months. So he really started like the most basic movements for posture, for stretching, and yeah, it was the most basic movements. That's all I can say. It was like teaching a toddler how to sit, or how to walk, or how to lay on her back again.
And really engaging the muscles
Yeah.
that had atrophied, that had not worn away, but that had literally disappeared with
Yeah.
your being bedbound and not really using them. So it's teaching your body that these muscles are still here and they're
Mhm.
still functioning, but we need to strengthen them.
Yes, exactly. Straight
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Wow. So profound as well, isn't it, when we look at healing emotional wounds? Because if we stayed in the medical model with that,
Hmm.
you would have been a cripple for the rest of your life. But
Exactly.
because you stepped outside of that, and had this miraculous, in air quotes, healing that we know is just the body healing itself when we support it to do what it does naturally.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, um, based on what the doctors in Canada were telling me, I would be injecting myself with cortisone on a weekly basis. I would be taking inflammatory pills, anti-inflammatory pills, and which are always like so drowsy. They make you drowsy. So it would have really impacted the quality of my life. And I would always have this narrative of, oh, I can't exercise anymore. I can't, do the activities that I want to do. And I'm pretty active person in terms of adventure. So I wouldn't be able to travel anymore. It would just completely shift my identity. And I could already sense that it had a little bit impacted it because when my friend recommended Ajit, I said, no, 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 no. Like, this is what the doctors are saying. And again, because we had such a deep connection and she kind of knew the type of person I was, she was like, listen, let's just try it out. So she still persisted. And I think that showed that a little bit of my identity had started to believe that I wouldn't be back to normal, quote unquote.
Yeah, but when we look at the experiments with obedience to authority back in the 50s and 60s, we can see how we become reliant on doctors
Mm-hmm.
and believe their every word because of their status, their authority, and their training. And we believe every word they say. But as time's moved on, now there's more and more people saying, actually, hang on a minute, let me step outside that and see what I can do for myself and tap into my own innate wisdom. And that's where we're going, really. And it sounds
Mm-hmm.
like your friend planted the seed that you nurtured and nourished from the old sense of self back into rekindling who you are, who you were.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I read my first Louise Hay book when I was 18, and she helped me a lot. Like the techniques she shared, she really helped me a lot heal the emotional wounds that were within me. So I knew that the mind was powerful enough to build, to like cultivate new neural pathways associated to emotions and experiences. And I knew it could happen with the body too. I just had not experienced it myself. And I think that's why it's so, um, it's more helpful when you, and I guess that's why support groups are so powerful, is because when other people have gone through what you've gone through, they understand you better. It's like your mind is more open to what they're saying. They're more open, like that openness is very healing. So I really started to experience that openness after I went through that physical experience. You know what I mean? It's knowing it, studying it is one thing, but experiencing it. So now when I see someone, having that, where I can see the connection of the dots between the mind and the body, I'm like, listen, I've been there. I've been in your shoes. I understand what you're going through. And this worked for me. So perhaps it could work for you. And people resonate with that more because they're like, okay, she probably gets it. Yeah.
Absolutely. And she gets it is a great way to build on that relationship with the coach client because of what we've been through. We totally understand what we're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, she gets it. And again, it's just a form of connection, like deeper connection is I see your pain. I feel your pain. And even the frustrations associated to not being able to heal through that pain through, the Western way.
Yeah. And being seen and heard as well is a huge part of the healing journey, isn't it?
Definitely. We all want to feel seen, heard, and valued in all our relationships. So if we can create that space for others, whether it's like through mediums like your book, like, reading the book and feeling, I feel heard, I feel seen, like I feel understood, or working with someone, or even with a friend, it's deeply therapeutic.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tannaz. And if you could share one tip with somebody going through pain like you've been through, what would that be?
Surround yourself with people who have overcome similar challenges. So, people who are a few steps ahead of you in terms of the healing journey, because being around them, speaking to them, will give you hope. And I think hope, and we know this based on lots of research, is the main ingredient, one of the main ingredients in healing. So it's your mindset of, going into surgery. If you think you're going to come out, the chances of you coming out and healing is significantly higher than if you're pessimistic about it. So I think being around people who've gone through it, who've experienced miraculous healings, support groups, friends, that can understand you, and just allowing them to instill hope in you, because that hope will also enable you to seek alternative modalities of healing. Yeah.
I love that. And when you've got that hope, it helps you to have the belief within yourself as well, doesn't it? So thank you. And where can people find you?
So I'm on all the platforms at Minutes on Growth, so ON and then Growth, on Instagram, my website, everywhere at Minutes on Growth.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your healing on Heal Yourself with Sarah Dawkins.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.